This is a poem called Aviators. I don't know whether this experience has anything to do with this poem, but I remember once being on a plane waiting to take off, and they announced over the PA that there was a technical problem with the flight. So they reopened the door, and a guy came onto the plane in a sort of high-vis jacket, and he was carrying the biggest, heaviest hammer you've ever seen. And he went into the cockpit, and they shut the door. There was all this banging around, and then he got off, and they said, it's fixed now. Aviators. I suppose what I was wondering is, what is that in avionics that just requires a big hammer to sort out? I'd always thought of flying as involving at least a little bit of magic. You know, that you go into the front bit of the plane, there's somebody there with a chalice full of smoke or a crystal ball or something like that. Not a big hammer. They'd overbooked the plane. At this moment in time, announced the agent at the counter, Rainbow Airlines is offering £100 or a free return flight to any passenger willing to stand down. A small man in a cheap suit and Bart Simpson socks scratched his ankle. £150, she announced 15 minutes later. Nobody moved. 200? From nowhere, this neat-looking chap in a blue flannel jacket and shiny shoes loomed over the desk and said, "I'll take the money." "But you're the pilot," she said, then added, "Sir," as if she'd walked into a Japanese house and forgotten to take off her shoes. The pilot whispered, "Listen, I need that money. I'm behind on my mortgage payments because my wife's a gambler. I've got 2 sons at Naval College. The hats alone cost a small fortune, and I'm being blackmailed by a pimp in Stockport. Let me take the 200, you'd be saving my life." I'd been sitting within earshot next to the stand-up ashtray. "Give him the money," I said. "Who are you?" asked Dorothy. She was wearing a plastic name badge with gold letters. "Dorothy, I'm George," I said, and clearly this man's in pain. I don't want him going all gooey midway over the English Channel. I once heard sobbing coming from the cabin of a jumbo jet at 33,000 feet, and it sounded like the laughter of Beelzebub. "But who'll fly the plane?" she wanted to know. "Why, me, of course." I opened my mouth so she could see how good my teeth were, like pilot's teeth. "Do you have a license?" she asked. I said, "Details, always details. Dorothy, it's time to let go a little, to trust in the unexplained, time to open your mind to the infinite." By now, my hand was resting on hers, and a small crowd of passengers had gathered around, nodding and patting me on the back. "Good for you, George," said a backpacker with a leather shoelace knotted around his wrist. It was biblical, or like the end of a family film during the time of innocence. I said, "Dorothy, give me the keys to the cockpit, and let's get this baby in the air."